Welcome back to Sewing 4-H. This is going to be our second class lesson to take home and do. I wanted to show you some examples of some scissor pouches that we learned how to make last class lesson, and these are some examples of some students' work that they have sewn up and decorated. For today's lesson, we are going to make a scrunchie. Here's an example of a scrunchie that I have made that is not the same material that we're going to use, but it's the same knit material. This is what we're going to make, and we're going to make it with 4-H material, which we could use while we're out wearing our 4-H t-shirts and community service and that sort of thing. So to begin, we have, take a piece off, a piece of material already cut. This is 18 inches by 3 inches. Your 1/4 inch thick elastic, about 4.5 to 5 inches long. We steal a pair of these scissors, trim a piece. And this is really all you need for your project besides a safety pin to pull it through. So take your material from the right side, fold it so the right sides are together, carefully all the way to the end. It wants to curl a little bit because it is a knit material. Pat it down, okay, and then start pinning. You want to pin in and then out, but you want to have it so the pin head is outside of the material. Go about every 2 to 3 inches. Make sure their material is lined up on the edges. Put another piece, another pin. You may have to scoot it a little bit. Put another pin. So we have just a few more to do here. Pin. Push the material down so make sure it's lined up. Pin. And at the last you can just hold that together. Okay, we're ready to begin. Let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, I have the piece ready to go in the sewing machine. I'm lining up with the first line on your throat plate or needle plate. It's been called both. It's a 5/8 line. Mine's not labeled. Some of the throat plates will show what the measurements are, but mine is a 5/8, this first line. Line up the material just under where the pressure foot will hold it there, and begin to sew a few strokes and then reverse to knot it and then continue. Okay. At this point, you can either pull your needles out or sew right over the top of them. Every once in a while you will break a needle or break a pin or bend a pin if you sew over the top, but most of the time it will sew right over the top and you can pull them out later. I'll show you both ways. I'll show you taking the pins out as you go. Sometimes it is beneficial to take the pins out as you go if you need to readjust the material just a little bit to line things up. Here we go. sometimes this knit material will want to crawl on you, which means it moves a little as it goes. So you'll just want to readjust as you move along. If you get off center, don't worry about it. We're just learning, we're just practicing, we're just having a chance to use the sewing machine. Try not to stretch as you go or pull the material in one way or another. Let the machine pull it through and just guide it as much as you can without, every once in a while you will need to manipulate the material somewhat. But I'm kind of giving it a little slack and letting it pull through, but guiding it and keeping it together from moving on it. Okay, do a little reverse. Bring your needle up. At this point, you see, okay, pull the needles out, the pins out, and you have your seam. You want to trim your end pieces. Now we are going to want to turn it inside out so that the right side is out. Okay, I have a short stick here. It looks like about a 1/4 inch dowel rod. You can use a pencil or anything else handy. The best way to turn it inside out would be to pull apart down at the end so it's kind of bunched up here. Put your stick there, and then try and create a wedge or something for it to stick on. A little bunched up material. Sometimes right at the seam is the best way to do it. You can stick it against your body and pull it over itself, unless it unhooks. And keep pushing it and pulling it. Until it turns on top of itself. I think I got it to stick on something. Once you have it through the other end, then you can just pull it on through. There we go. Do that, and then pull this. Take your stick out. And here we have your scrunchie before it has the elastic in it. Now, the next step would be to get the elastic put in. Okay, say you don't have a safety pin handy at home, but you have a paper clip. The paper clip, of course, it's not going to hang onto a piece of elastic, so what you can do is just pin it on. Poke through the elastic and over the top of the paper clip, and it kind of holds it in there. Now this is just a tool to fish it through your scrunchie. So go ahead and fish it through. You don't want to lose sight of the tail of your scrunchie, so maybe between the last two fingers, just sort of hold it right there. Don't poke yourself with the pin if you ended up having to use a pin. Most of the whole scrunchie will fit on the paper clip because it's a large paper clip. The point is just to get so it's barely through, so you get a hold of it. Okay, now I have a hold of the paper clip on the other side and a hold of the elastic on the other side. Don't lose either one of those, but start to pull it through. What if you get stuck on the pin head a little bit? Just wanting to get paper clip and the pin through so you can get to the elastic. Okay, so here's the elastic. Hold that with that. Take your pin out, the paper clip. Now you have your scrunchie on the piece of elastic. The next step is to simply tie the elastic in a knot. That will hold. Don't lose it. Don't want to have to start over. Tie it nice and tight. Use these ends to tie the knot so you have plenty there. Okay, now the next step is you have to get the knot in a different spot. You don't want the knot right where you're going to connect the two ends of the material. So move the material around on there so that the knot's in a different spot. It's almost the scrunchie. All we have to do is finish it out. And it wants to get stuck right there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So you have a raw end and two raw ends. Actually, one of the raw ends you want to fold under. Fold it under far enough so that when we sew it, it's like a little hem in there and holds the material. And then put it on top of your raw edge. Tuck it under there. Okay. Make sure that it's in far enough. And we're going to sew a little seam right there. Stretch it out a little bit if you need to. Make sure the tails of your thread are long. You want the tails long because they're not going to go backwards. We're not going to tie it with the backwards. We're just going to go straight across. Go in there a little ways just to hold it. You may have to persuade your material to go through a little bit because it's thick right there. If it doesn't want to go, grab your material, go a little slower. Okay, and go all the way across. So you've gone all the way across and into the middle of your scrunchie. Lift up your foot, pull your scrunchie out, give it plenty of tail space, and trim your threads. There we go. The next thing we do is get your threads. Can you see okay? They're all, there we go. And tie a knot. On both ends. Trim the tail off, right where you tied the knot. Don't worry about a little thread showing. This, once you have your scrunchie all scrunched, you don't have to worry about the threads or the seam showing. Use white thread probably, because there's more white on this material than there is green. White thread. Trim your tails off. Okay, there's the little seam you have there to hold it all together. And there's your scrunchie.